Click the links to join the channel here over on Subscribestar. Thanks to the recent members. So Andrew Tate versus Greta versus some Eastern European country versus a bunch of sports cars. Mostly what this is manipulating people into getting eyeballs on public figures, because that's what public figures are all about. It's this stuff. It happens on YouTube with blood sports, and even stuff that's kind of a step below blood sports. It's all fake and contrived, and even if it's in whatever community it's in, it brings in so much money that it's like an irresistible temptation for people, to the point where you can almost look at it as a minor conflict between people, and they probably recognize, hey, listen, we could blow this up. Why don't we just do live streams back and forth, and we'll just split the money? And it's like, are you fleecing people? Not exactly, because you're providing entertainment, but it's like, don't for a minute not recognize it for what it is. And honestly, like, after you watch YouTube for a while, you look at it in a different light. It's like, it just feels like there's more important things to do. Anyway, so I don't know what Eastern European country he's hiding out in, or why he's out in Eastern Europe for some reason. You look at both these people and think a lot of things you probably can't say on YouTube. So Greta has some very powerful backers, but first of all, from what I know about these figures, is that like the how a public figure works is they have to constantly be in the public. And somebody like Greta, oh, so yeah, you got multiple PhDs in atmospheric physics and ice core studies and glacials and seafloor spreading, carbon sink cycles and geomorphology and the acid deformation. Oh no, like computer modeling, mathematical physics, anything, any kind of hard science to help you to understand the scientific method and analyze data. So, like, you're doing this stuff for 4 years. I mean, the 4 years is, you could have got like a bachelor's of science and probably a master's if you're just focusing on the sciences, and you throw out all that libertarian, literature type of crap. Like, you just got a science degree, you could probably do that, get a master's in like 4 years. So did you get any of that kind of like a general chemistry? Was it organic and inorganic chemistry, carbon chemistry, or something like that kind of? Did you get anything like math, something? No. I just took information that other people told me and then I repeated it. So I need to stay in the public eye as long as possible. Oh, so people got, like, they support you for this. So all the people that are supporting you, do they have like any of the basic, like, honestly, a high school understanding of science? Well, I understood the scientific method before I ever took a science class, because I was reading science fiction so much as a kid. I'm not just saying that. When I in high school started taking chemistry and stuff, I already knew the scientific method because I had literally got it from science fiction books. Back in those days, like, there was like a hard branch of science fiction that would actually talk about science and exponential notation and a little bit of math and physics and chemistry. It was fascinating. Anyway, so no, she doesn't have any of those things. Like, she's just a public figure, useful idiot. And I don't know if you're a defender of him or not, but it seems like that it seems like anyone who's in the public figure, once people get in the public, they become compromised unless they have some kind of internal dogma, like usually a religious structure, a national structure, a blood structure. But when people like a Jordan Peterson type, they just become anything to everybody as long as the money keeps coming in. Hey, we're gonna sell protein bars and do like keto diets, and I'm gonna whore my daughter out, and I'm gonna get addicted to benzos. And I was like, how did people get behind you in any way? The thing is, with public figures, like with these types, it doesn't, like, them being good or bad or getting into their camps or defending them or not defending them. That doesn't even come into the equation, because all they want is more eyeballs. So one thing I will admit is I heard this exchange, and I noted Greta's rejoinder, repost, and I chuckled a bit, but then I thought about it, and the smile kind of left my face, because I thought, it's actually not that funny, and I feel kind of dumb for thinking it was funny even for a second. Partially because we're being manipulated by all of this, but also because the bon mot was lowbrow humor by a midwit. It wasn't clever at all. If you turn it around and you called her something that, called her ugly with small boobs, something that went to her looks, people would lose their minds. The fact that her comeback was an insult to his corporal self, an immutable characteristic, it's sort of weird, and it's not, like, that's not a good comeback. The more I think about it, it's not like, this whole exchange is just feels like artificial. And the fans on either side of these equations, it's okay to look at both these people and go, oh, I see an L. Like, they might be our useful idiots, they might be going in our direction, they might be parodying some of the information that we want them to say, but it's like, neither one of these people are your guys if you're on the left, or if you're on, I don't know what his side of the equation is. And let me also say that gurus on either side of the aisle are really ridiculous. Your gods and your ancestors are the people you hold sacred, not whatever the fuck these things are. Um, and that's what they are. Though I've heard that Andrew Tate has said some base things, so I suppose we have to take allies where we can find them. So who knows? So when I saw the Jordan Peterson is another example. He's selling books, and I think he was the guy who's doing keto bar. Just the most ridiculous stuff. Just I want more money. So how do I get more money? Oh, we'll sell a diet plan. You sell a 12-step addiction free from benzos plan, buddy. And the guy was making millions of dollars a month on PayPal. It must be nice to be allowed on PayPal. I knew that the society was in deep shit. The idea that anyone would look to him as, and that phrase of like when you're over target, you catch an anti-aircraft fire. That's absolutely true. And the watching Sargon is interesting because there used to be a lot of nicknames for him. Don't say anything in the comments. He's intelligent, reasonably intelligent. The guy's not a genius. He's just reasonably intelligent, open minded. And if you were paying attention to him 5 years ago, he'll be on the right in 5 years, and in a couple years from that, he'll be on the far right, because there's no other way to progress. If you're, is that confirmation bias? Say someone's intelligent and open minded, they have to go to the right. Yeah, maybe, but I mean, it's what I see happening. And you look at the progression of Sargon. It's like, say you got kicked off some of the payment processors for thinking that you were an adult in an adult world, speaking to other adults. And it's somebody posted a meme about libertarianism, and they realize it's just a high IQ, high trust fantasy for people who think it's a good idea. Yeah, because you're part of that high IQ, high trust world, and then you'll lose that whole libertarian fantasy a few years later when you look at it's something for young people, or if you're in a high trust society maybe, but you look around the society and you realize, oh, this is just, it's like asking crocodiles to be libertarian. It just doesn't make sense. You can't translate that into the real world. And so you look at Sargon, it's like, yeah, eventually Sargon's going to be on the far right. There's no other place for him to go to if he does maintain that open mind. Where's that going with this? Yeah, so Jordan Peterson, I mean, all this stuff is a sign of a sick society. So, like, what did he say that was so stunning and brave? The obvious. He was a Canadian guy, and credit to him, for saying, hey, free speech must be defended. And that was his viewpoint like 5 years ago when he was saying that. And he changed his tune a little bit. And compelled speech is a dangerous precedent. And I don't know if he was men aren't women type of stuff. It's like, yeah, that should be the basic standard of like your average reasonable man test. To think that, like, oh no, that puts him on a pedestal for saying that stuff publicly. um, and like Eric Weinstein was another guy who said, like, yeah, I don't know if we should be asked to make people leave campus. Like, he could have just gone along with it, and he didn't. He stood up and he started to have a conversation. It's like, yeah, that seems like what a reasonable man would do, a reasonable person test. I mean, inclusively, but and like, oh, those are the modern day heroes. Like, what a fuck society if Peterson and Weinstein are the two guys who did the bare minimum, and credit to them for doing it. They didn't have to do it, but it's like, they're not heroes, or they shouldn't be. Like, the rest of the society should also be at that standard. But if the rest of society was at that standard, we wouldn't be where we are. So I don't know what to say about all this. The thing is, it shows how destroyed Western society. Both these people. What's the word for it? Dysgenic. Careful there, buddy. It shows how destroyed Western society is, how rootless and desperate it is to look at milquetoast con ops, Peterson or Weinstein, or Buck. There's a few other people. There was, oh God, what was that other, College of the Redwoods or something? There's a bunch of these weird little schools that you look at the people in the schools and you hear them talking like, why are you in college unless it's like to get a remedial classes. And then you look at the high schools, like, how did you pass these people through? And then you look at the grammar schools, and then you look at their parents, singular parent, and you realize, oh, this is like, no, you shouldn't be in college. You should have been like at the high school level. You should have been in a, what do you call, like, we got to bring shop classes back. I look back at that and think, like, what a waste that was to not have shop classes. We're doing college prep. It's like, you know what? College prep is not for everyone. And that's not a compliment or an insult. It's not like, to send people to college and say, oh, you're going to study literature, get a bachelor's in literature. It's like, maybe not. Maybe that's not what should be encouraged. Like a bachelor's of science in chemistry should probably be encouraged. And that's another thing with the whole environmental movement. You see these people with the video game thing I did yesterday. It's like they're pushing these kids to this conclusion about environmentalism, where they should be pushing kids to the scientific method. Say, oh, you kids need to go to read about chemistry and physics and the mathematics necessary to understand this, and computer modeling and a little geology. And so you can go to, like, study this stuff in grammar school. So when you go to college, you have a head up. You can get a chemistry degree. You can get a master's in computer science to do the modeling, and then get a PhD in these branches of environmental chemistry if you want. But they're not telling kids to go get those degrees because they don't want an educated populace. And I mean educated in the hard sciences. Like, there's a time for literature. It's like that's a very advanced society, but like this is the time to have a hard science educated populace. And the narrative isn't that. You're not pushing kids to say, you got to learn the scientific method. This is our reasoning. This is our issue, rule, analysis, conclusion. All they're doing with the Gretas of the world is presenting this conclusion. Go, but show me your work. Show me your work. Oh, you wouldn't possibly understand it. You don't have the math and physics and chemistry. It's like, so 16-year-old Greta, she's 20 now or something. Like, so you're saying that she had so why are you presenting this conclusion as a conclusion instead of presenting the reasoning and showing the analysis? Because the analysis doesn't lead to the conclusion that she's presenting. And I say this as someone who was in that relevant area of study. It doesn't say what they say it says, but when you present the conclusion and you never show the method, you never even have to have that conversation. Anyway, so it shows how completely fucked Western society is. And it is. To say that like any of these people are held up on any kind of pedestal. And the thing about Peterson is, like, I wonder now, he had a recent meltdown over anonymous accounts on Twitter or something. Weren't the founding fathers writing letters back and forth anonymously so they wouldn't get murdered? You fucking clown. God, to see Peterson, the thing is, I was never, and like to have any gurus that are not your gods or your ancestors is insane. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I'm gonna buy a book by this shill. Please don't do that. So to see, like, he did a video, I think, on YouTube on Christians, talking to Christians, what Christians need to know, and then message to Muslims, and I'm just gonna stop there. Okay, you're gonna stop. Don't say anything in the comments. I mean that, please. So he got roasted on Twitter by those anonymous accounts where, like, if they weren't anonymous, oh, don't be anonymous. Well, those people will just get fired and their houses will probably get burned down and they'll probably get murdered. Yes, that's what should happen. The fuck are you talking about? You're getting $1 million a month from Patreon and you're telling these people that they should be made homeless for having unpopular political opinions. Yeah, that's what the founding fathers would have wanted. Yeah, they would have been doing other things by now too. You know that too. Anyway, he had a little bit of a melt. The guy's like, "Are you? So you're on benzos, and you're like a guru for lost, rootless men who are, honestly, I thought about doing videos. I don't know. The thing is, if you do a video on like advice for young men, and you don't charge for it, people will think it's worthless. It's only when you charge for something that they think it has value. That's a psychological trick that's been known for a long time. So I don't know if you do something like that, it's like you literally have to charge people. We're gonna do a 3-part video series on it and advice for men and like ascending this whatever. It's like $20 a video or something. It's like, oh, okay, well, if I pay for it, it must be valuable. I was like, yeah, I mean, it's whatever. It's sometimes things are frustrating. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. See you guys on the next episode.